Public Radio, NPR, where the news is what we say is the news.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brand John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
It is the BJ Show. Today's date is the 27th or is the 28th, John? What is it, 27th?
It is definitely the 28th, and we're going to talk about that in A Block today, Brad.
28th of August, 2025. And this is the A Block. This is Brad John Show. The reason I mention that is because of the fact that some of you will be listening to this show into the future. Some of you will be listening to it on bsshow.co or bsshow.us in a podcast or podcast form or video podcast form. And it may be helpful for you to know the date that we did this show, because that way you can sort of make sense of the things we talk about. Right, John?
You're exactly right, Brad.
John, I will get right into the top three, but if you notice, I started the show off with my favorite. We are National Public Radio. Can I ask you a question, John? All the teeth gnashing about, Trump got rid of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and there's not going to be any money for NPR and KWMU. John, you're a guy who watches the news very carefully, right?
I am.
Have you seen any layoff notices at KWMU, St. Louis Public Radio?
I have, and the number is 0.0.
Have you heard them talking about any cost-cutting moves at NPR or at KWMU? John, how many articles have you seen that about cost-cutting?
0.0.
And in the corporate world, if your revenue decreases, what do you normally do?
You would normally begin cutting the most expensive part of your operation, which is staff.
Right. You would lay people off or fire them and get rid of that. Okay, having said that, John, let's think about that for a minute, and then we're going to have a second for everyone to contemplate the above or the aforementioned. Okay, second's over. Now it's time for John Combest. And who's calling me? I don't know who it is, but what's your name, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
We bring Casey along. Who's calling me this hour of the morning? I have no idea. We bring Casey Kasem along, and hold on a minute, John. I know.
Is it KFUO Dial a Prayer? They probably want to settle out of court, Brad. Pick it up.
John Combest, every single day of his life for the past, I don't know how many years, 23 years, he puts together this incredible site of all the things you should know that's going on in the state of Missouri. It's called johncombest.com. Amazing. Say Combest, johncombest.com. And we start the show off with the top three. And Casey brings it to a climax by starting with
Brad, easy.
In third place.
There we go.
Brad, you just had a moment of silence for contemplation. I think we should have a moment of silence for something we'll no longer be seeing on the Missouri roadways. I'm not talking about a crazy, wacky radio guy driving down the road with some strange license plates that's just the same letter over and over and over again. I'm not talking about a wonderful woman named Shelley Barr driving 105 miles per hour on 364. No, I'm talking about something that is the bane of many curmudgeons like me, and that's temporary tags on cars. Now, if you're on social media, you've probably seen the radio legend Charlie Brennan loves to talk about the number of temporary tags he sees on the road from dated years previous. In other words, people got a temporary tag 2 years ago and just never bothered going in and actually getting their real plate or their real tag. Here's a headline from St. Louis Public Radio. A progressive content creator named Sarah, don't call me General Mills, don't call me Post, Kellogg. Missouri has a new temporary tag law, but it's not in effect until at least next year. And Miss Kellogg quotes one of my favorite people in government, Missouri Department of Revenue Director Trish Vincent, who is an icon in state government. Big shout out to Trish Vincent. I love Trish Vincent. She says it's part of a larger effort from the Missouri Department of Revenue to eliminate temporary tags. I should say, I referenced the it there. I should define that noun there. Lawmakers passed a bill this past session dealing with several automotive pieces. One of the new laws requires a car buyer to pay sales tax at the dealership. Private sales will still pay taxes at revenue offices. So, Brad, this goes to Trish's quote that the Department of Revenue is trying to eliminate all the temporary tags out there. And as Trish notes, quote, I know you drive out there and you see temporary tags out there, and some of them are expired. Trish Vincent with the understatement of the year. So, Brad, it's kind of sad. You know, you can usually be driving behind an old hoopty and you see a tag that expired in 2022 and somebody's puffing a blunt and, you know, their bumper's hanging off. And you look at their temporary tag and you say, that guy could use a little bit of help. Are you going to miss temporary tags, Brad?
John, I think this whole thing is ridiculous, and I'll tell you the reason why.
Why is that?
Government has set up businesses as being the tax collector. And, for example, if you work for a company, and I have run several companies, I have to collect taxes for the government. I have to collect state taxes. I have to send them to the state Department of Revenue. I have to collect federal taxes, which Yeah,
you're doing their work for them, right,
I'm
Brad?
doing their work for them. Okay, now, even more so, the state is now making the auto dealers into tax collectors, which I don't think is right. I think that's wrong. Because why should they be in a position of collecting tax? And that's one more thing they have to do. They got to keep, in other words, you buy a car, let's say it's $30,000 car, sales tax is, I don't know what sales tax would be. Let's say it's $4,000. Okay, so you pay the dealership if you're writing a check, you pay the dealership $34,000. So they have to take that $4,000 and along with all the other money they have and send that to the state. They become the tax collector. It's more work for them. I don't think that's right.
I'm surprised. Brad, I don't remember the debate about this bill, and Trish notes that the law was actually passed in 2021. So it's taken some time to implement it and set it all up. And we should note, too, that this doesn't go into effect at least until the end, I believe Trish says the end of 2026 or the beginning of 2027. So there's a long lead time here. But to be honest, Brad, I don't remember when this bill was being debated. I don't remember the pushback on it. And I'm sure folks were I'm guessing car dealers were probably making the same argument you were, but I don't know that for sure.
Well, no, they're not making it because you know why? Because they love this. Because you know why?
Because they can get a piece of the action?
Because let's take the same example. You go buy a $30,000 car, and there's $5,000 worth of taxes on it, and you finance the whole thing. A lot of the car dealers have deals cut with local banks where they get a piece of the action. They get a percentage of the finance thing. It's the same thing like with when you go to like with buying a house and things like that. The real estate agent gets a piece of the action, and not only that, the reason the real estate agents are telling you, oh, go to Jim over at XYZ Mortgage because they get a piece of that action.
Yeah, of course they do, Brett. Now, you would make the argument that that's the way businesses should work together. People who listen to the BJ show would point out this has something to do with Whistling Diesel and Clitoral McFarlane or whatever his name is, right?
Cletus McFarlane.
Oh, okay.
Okay, John,
yeah.
See, unless you've run a business, you've never run a business before, have you, John?
Oh, absolutely not, Brad. I thought that doing radio with you would lead to some money, but we saw where that went.
Okay. When you've run a business, it's to the point where through the years I've had people say, man, it must be nice to be your own boss. I go, I'm not my own boss. I got more bosses than I ever had. Let's say if you get some money from the bank to run your business, the bank is your boss. The federal government is your boss. Like with me, the federal government, the FCC is my boss. The state's my boss. The county's my boss. If I want to put up a new tower and they say, no, you can't do that. I got all this, they're all my boss. And
yeah, it's funny you mentioned the FCC being your boss because I don't think many people write snippy religion scripture quoting letters to their boss like you write to the FCC, Brad. And Brad, I wanted to ask you, is everything okay with KFUO because you haven't mentioned them in like a month? So I'm guessing you're not having any sort of drama with them anymore.
Nothing's happened. It's sort of interesting. The FCC's taken no action. They've taken no more action. If you look at the file, matter of fact, I will tell anybody, and to open honesty, go to fccdata.org.
And then what number should they look up, Brad? What letters should they enter there?
The call letters for the station that's interfering with this is K as in Kilo, 283 K283CI, Charlie India, okay? And that's the call letters, and go way down to the bottom of that page, and there's a thing on it says license to cover, and there's a little orange triangle. Click on the orange triangle, and it'll give you all the latest filings.
I am so glad I asked that question and that you talked about government websites. That leads nice into story number 2, Brad.
Up a notch to number 2.
This is the type of story every year that Brad Hildebrand and his ilk love, because it involves gaining a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of factoids to drop in with your friends. You might even tell them, matter of fact, state law just went into effect today. Matter of fact, state law just went into effect August 28th. Brad, August 28th today is the day that a number of state laws go into effect. Now, you could go to the state of Missouri website and you could see what they all are, but no need for that. Let's go to a progressive publication like the Kansas City Star, which helpfully laid out 12 Missouri laws taking effect today. The first one, this piece is brought to us by Eleanor Nash, which last time I checked, Eleanor Nash was on what they call the service journalism team. It's kind of like an advocacy thing that the Star does. The number one story, Brad, which is one that you have a strong opinion on, is no more paid sick time. And the Kansas City Star shows some big fat black woman standing outside an Arby's with a cute little smirk on her face. And she's talking about, I don't know, she's complaining about whatever fast food employees complain about. So no more sick leave. There's also a law that allows folks to pay their taxes with gold and silver, which I know is good news for you, Brad, because you can go right next to your helium tank in your radio storage and pull out your gold bars to pay your taxes. Also, an end on child marriage. Child is in quotes there. Misdemeanor for driving in illegal sideshows. You know, all that nonsense on Washington Avenue. And a few other rules, Brad. And, of course, because this is the Kansas City Star, they have biased headlines like stopping renter protections. Also, you know, the ability to landlords to actually collect from a bunch of big, disgusting, deadbeat renters. Anyway, Brad, a couple stories up today on the brand new laws taking effect. It is August 28th. To answer your question in advance, Brad, I don't know when the legislature always has laws begin on August 28th. My hunch is that everybody in the legislature is a big Cardinals fan, and they do it as an homage to Tommy Herr, who wore number 28 for the Cardinals in the mid to late 80s. All these laws are up, and Brad, you can read the stories on johncombest.com today.
Help if I turn my microphone back on. Boy, John, you give me a grief for pulling stretches. Tommy Herr? You say it's because of Tommy
jersey
Herr?
number 28. I think everybody would know that that's why. Now, Brad, I'm sure there's some obscure HVAC part involving ozone and climate change that, you know, that law changes. We know, Brad. It's great. That involves the number 28, too. But let's go with Tommy Herr.
Okay, question for you. Did I hear you say there's a law that goes into effect that you can pay your taxes with gold and silver? Did you really say that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, the Kansas City Star uses this line. Many legislators questioned the logistics of the law, which was backed by hard right Republican senators. Ooh.
Okay, John, if that's the case, how come the week before last when I went to pay my taxes in Warren County, my real estate taxes, the collector, Julie Schomburg, refused my money order in cash? How? Explain that to me. And you know what's so funny? I mentioned that probably the crazy stuff I talk about. I've gotten more feedback from that. People, I mean, literally, people have said to me, I heard you talk about the fact that you tried to pay your real estate taxes with a money order in cash and she wouldn't take it. I go, yeah. She go, and then people go, why? I go, I don't know. I mean, you know, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I think it had more to do with the fact that it was coming from Brad Hildebrand. I think if a meth junkie had come in with a bunch of copper, they'd be like, oh, this looks like an actual productive member of society. Let's take their tender. But when you come in, they're going to be like, oh, God, here he is again. Must be that time of year.
John,
and with Brad, it's always his time of month.
I pull a dollar bill out of my pocket, and what does it says? This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. That's what it says. That's on the money. So, God, you know, This is
I think you should definitely re-traumatize yourself by replaying it in your head and talking about it again, Brad. It's always healthy to do that.
This is my problem with government. You get people in positions of power, and John, what's that word you like to use all the time? Which is, matter of fact, which I used. I wrote into the script for my fast food diet that you accused me of doing as AI. That it starts with an F and it ends with an X. What is that word, John? It's 4 letters.
Is it faux?
No, flex. You flex.
Oh,
people.
flex.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right, Brad.
Government officials just want to flex. Matter of fact, Cyndi Lauper has a new song she's come out, and matter of fact, she's trying to run. I don't know if you know this or not. She's running for some position, some government position, and the song is "Girls Just Want to Flex Their Power." That's the song.
Wow, yeah, that's a good one. It has a few too many syllables, but I think with AI we could probably fix that. Brad, to quote Cyndi Lauper, "I see your true colors shining through, and that's why I love you."
John knows Cyndi Lauper well because she was a part of the WWE, right? Or WWF at the time.
Yeah, she played a huge role in the Roddy Piper Hulk Hogan angle. And in fact, I think of her all the time when I cut off small bush limbs. You know why, Brad?
I don't know if I want to touch this, but go ahead.
Yeah, I call my tool Cyndi Lauper.
Oh, God. That's a dad joke. Okay, here we go.
The number one.
Speaking of dads, a lot of families will be toting their kids along I-70 here on Labor Day weekend, or really any weekend. You know, you're taking your little chitlins to games. Maybe you're Brad Hildebrand, and you're hopping on I-70 to go get your Fauci ouchie, your stupid COVID vaccine because you're old and naive. But I digress. I-70, Brad. This story is brought to us by Mark Zinn, one of the best reporters in the state of Missouri, objectively, at Fox 2 News. Right now, we have 3 major sections of I-70 that are being, God, this is a terrible sentence construction, but worked on. I'll end the sentence in a preposition. Worked on. And Brad, I think the one that folks around here obviously will be most interested in is that construction continues on the part of I-70 between Warrenton and Wentzville. Now, this is that section, Brad, is the largest project, the largest individual project in MoDOT history. $600 million to reconstruct 70 between Warrenton and Wentzville. Now, Brad, I include that here because it's relevant to, I think, virtually everybody that in our broadcast area and who listens to this show. But work is also, Mark really focused on the fact that there's a bunch of work happening over on the Kansas City side. And the quote that Mark has from the gentleman, he's the program manager for the Improve I-70 project, Eric Kopinski. The last name sounds like somebody that would be one of the Polka Boys on Friday. We're going to keep the machine moving and really keep going with the improvements. So that's why we see so much construction, Brad. Now, you know that part of I-70 at Warrenton and Wentzville will not be done until late 2028. So 3 more years of construction there, Brad.
Yeah, and matter of fact, I just drove that when I drove out to Warrenton to pay my taxes, and I have to tell you, there's quite a bit of activity there. Matter of fact, the 40, 70, 64 interchange, they're completely redoing that. And what was not also mentioned, John, if you've driven out that in a long way, I-64/40 in St. Charles County is being widened to 3 lanes in each direction, 6 lanes total, between K, where it narrows down to 2 lanes in each direction, all the way out to the 40, 64, 70 interchange. That's going on as well, too. So that whole area out there has just really got some serious construction going on.
I mean, they've really improved their operation since the 90s when they invited Brad Hildebrand to be on a task force. I think we can look at a chart of MoDOT and say that was really the bottom of MoDOT.
That was the biggest waste of my time. I'm telling you.
I don't know, Brad. It ended up with a binder that's sitting in some dusty office at 141 and 40 right now.
See, John, you put it like, see, I'm amazed. I'm in awe of people like you. I told the whole story about them inviting me into this stupid committee from MoDOT, and we never got anything done, and we met every week, and it was like a waste of my time. And I think, why am I doing this? And John said, remember why? I never forget this. You synopsize it like in one sentence, and that's one sentence was,
I don't remember what it was. That it ended up in a binder somewhere?
Well, you essentially said that in so many words that they were taking input for the community, which would never go anywhere. And I think you actually did said it would end up in a binder on a desk somewhere that nobody ever looked at. That it was just sort of
Yeah. And here's the best part of it, Brad, because I've been this intern or entry-level staffer before. In about 4 years, a summer intern at MoDOT working at the office near Woods Mill and 40 will be going through a storage room because they have to make room, and they will take whatever binder the Brad Hildebrand committee was on, and they will rip the pages out of it, throw it away, throw the plastic binder in the recycling thing, and be on their way.
My favorite part of that was the whole thing was about clearing accidents onto the shoulder. They had this whole the engineer sat there and told us, well, if you got a 4-lane highway and you lose one lane, the throughput of the traffic goes down 33%. If you lose 2 lanes, it goes down 69%. And he gave all these things, and they're talking about. And keep in mind, it was other people besides me. It was like firefighters and things like that. They're talking about as soon as an accident happened to get it off in the shoulder and stop blocking the lanes of traffic. And some fire chief, he's probably retired by now, raises his hand and says, well, that's not the way we do things. When we come up an accident, we close as many lanes as we can because, and his point was, we protect our firefighters. And if you've ever seen that before, if you've seen accidents on the highway, if there are firefighters, and once again, I'm not saying anything bad about them. They're doing their job.
Yeah, that's their priority, right? Their priority is not the throughput of traffic.
Exactly.
It's protecting their men and women.
Right, exactly. Their priority is protecting their men and women, their firefighters, while they're out there on the interstate. And if you ever seen this before, I see it many times. You see an accident with the fire departments there. They turn a pumper, big old long pumper at a 45-degree angle to block 3 lanes of traffic. So if some lug nut who drives along who's not paying attention would smash into the firefighters, he's not going to do that because he's going to get himself destroyed by hitting the pumper. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this is interesting because this is like the firefighters against MoDOT, and the MoDOT guy was saying, yes, but that's slowing down the traffic flow. And the firefighter says, we don't care. We're protecting our guys. I'm thinking to myself, I get it,
I know, and Brad's in the corner playing paddleball. Just hoping he can maybe someday get a free meal out of this thing.
Yes.
Brad raises his hand and said, I was told there would be pizza. Brad, I'd also like to point out, for the sake of drops, that yesterday, let's not forget, an 8 o'clock, you dropped the gym face down and hogtied. And in this segment, we hear that you should always put your pumper at a 45-degree angle. Now, Brad, when you were younger, I'm guessing that the angle was a little bit more northward. But as you get older, your pumper's going to be more at a 45-degree angle, I'm guessing, right? Now, I'm blessed in that I don't have that issue. But you get what I'm saying?
And you shall feel the pythons, brother.
I mean, my dad was a firefighter. I know a lot about pumpers,
You shall feel the wrath of Hulkamania.
Okay, John has no idea what I just did because he can't hear it. Okay, John will listen to the show later and go, I can't believe you put those drops
I know,
in
and
there.
I'm going to listen to your make-believe radio appearance that happened yesterday too, Brad.
Okay, it was very interesting, by the way.